So guys, I'd like us to start with question 3.1. Question 3.1. So if we could turn there, that would be great. And will be great. Okay. Right, so under the required, on question 3.1, it's on page 84 in my textbook. Mine is the 2022. It's the same, okay? So under the required there, it says calculate the incremental profit or loss that may arise from the promotion, okay? Then it says calculate the unit sales multiplier needed during the promotion to break even, okay? So remember, we're doing cost volume analysis, and we know in cost volume analysis, we are trying to assess the impact of different changes, right, on our profit at the end of the day, and also on sales and things of that nature. Okay, so here it says COSI Pty Ltd has produced information relating to normal budgeted information and its expected promotional information as follows. Okay, so under the normal data, in other words, under normal circumstances, you've got weekly sales of 3,000. You've got selling price per unit 3 Rand 50. And then what else? Normal variable cost per unit 2 Rand 10. And then normal contribution margin per unit 1 Rand 40. All right. COSI wishes to boost the sales of its product and predicts that by applying a promotional discount of 20% to its product and incurring an additional fixed cost of 6.5, unit sales will be 3 times higher than normal sales. Okay? Normal sales. Right. Then it goes on to give us the promotional data or information. It says selling price discount 20%. Okay, that much we already know. Sales multiplier 3, we already know that as well, because it said we do times 3 the normal sales. And then additional fixed cost 6.5. All right, so they're kind of just organizing this in a neater format. The unit variable cost still remains the same at 2 Rand 10 cents. And then promotional period in weeks is 5 weeks. Okay, so there's all the information there. They say calculate the incremental profit or loss that may arise from the promotion. Okay, right, so let's see what we've got there. Okay, so part 1, we quickly just put our information, well, apply our information. So obviously we know that we are selling each unit for a 20% discount, right? So in other words, we're selling at 80% of our usual cost price, right? Should I switch off the lights? Can you guys see clearly? I can switch off. So 80% of 3 Rand 50 is what? Somebody tell me. 2 Rand 80. 2 Rand 80. 2 Rand 80. Okay. Right? So our selling price here is obviously then 2 rand 80. Okay, then our variable cost, they gave it to us, right? And then obviously to get our contribution margin per unit, we were just saying the 2 rand 80 minus the 2 rand 10 cents. I didn't give you this for homework, ne? Okay. No, I'm just curious. The past papers, okay. That's fine. All right. Okay. Yeah, so we've got our contribution margin there. Now we obviously want to find out what was the total contribution, right, via all the products that we sold. Okay, so we then have to say, okay, cool. We know that our contribution per product or per unit is the 70 cents. And then we know, what else do we know? We know that we have a weekly demand of 3,000 units, right, normally. But we know that we are doing times 3 that because of the promotion, isn't? Okay. What else do we know? We know that this promotion is lasting for how many weeks? No. We're not, this 3 is the multiplier. Yes, that's the multiplier. Times 5 weeks. Let me put this at the end of it. Is there anything else we're missing? Nope, I think that's it. So 70 times, or 0.70 times 3,000 times 3 times 5. What do we get? What is our total contribution margin? $31,500. Okay, so then our profit will be the difference between obviously your additional fixed cost and the 31,500, because they didn't tell us about any other costs. So that's the only other cost that we need to obviously cater to. So what is our profit? I'm sure there's a profit there, isn't? 25,000, 100%. Maybe I should put this in brackets. 25,000. Okay, so we have, okay, right? But again, the question, what did they ask? They said calculate the incremental profit or loss. So in other words, calculate whether there was a profit over and above what we would have realized had we not conducted the promotion. Okay, so we then now need to calculate what would have been our contribution margin without the promotion. So we then look at the initial table. All right, and I've pretty much done it. We know that we usually sell 3,000 units. All right, we know again this is for 5 weeks. And then if we calculate our usual selling price, which is the 3 rand 50 cents, minus your variable cost, which is 2 rand 10, that will then give you 1 rand 40 as your contribution under the normal circumstance per unit, and then that should give you 21 rand. Sorry, 21,000. 1 rand. So let's actually do it together. That's what I was actually just speaking to now. So I'm gonna do this. The 3 rand 50 is our normal selling price when there's no promotion. Then we know 2 rand 10 is what? The variable cost. So our contribution margin per unit is 140. Are you seeing now where it's coming from? Okay. So this is our contribution margin without the promotion. And here we see we made the profit of 25,000. So the difference between the two will now be our incremental profit that we would realize as a result of the promotion, which, as Ash has just mentioned, is 4,000. Happiness. Okay. So that's the first part. What are they asking on the next bit? They're saying calculate the sales multiplier used during the promotion to break even. To break even. How do we work this one out? How do we work this one out? How do we calculate break even? Say again, fixed cost divided by the contribution margin, isn't? So, what is our fixed cost? 6,500. Okay, we're happy with that. Then the next question is, okay, cool. But we also know that there's variable cost that we need to cater to, isn't? Because here we want to break even. We don't want to make a profit. We don't want to make a loss. Okay. So, what else must we do? What else must we do? We have to add in those variable costs, isn't it? Huh? Because remember, break even, we say fixed cost divided by your contribution margin, isn't it? Your selling price? Exactly, which means we will have catered to the variable cost, isn't it? So here we want to find out how much. Yeah, I'm actually the one who's mistaken. So here when they're saying break even, in other words, we shouldn't have made a loss or an amount less than what we would normally actually have made. So it's this 6,500 plus the 21,000, which we would have made had there not been a promotion. Well, yeah, well, it's a bit ambiguous. They should have actually said, should we not have made a profit less than the normal scenario? That would have made it more clear. Because break even, immediately your mind is going to go to not make a loss, not make a profit. Does it make sense? So, but yeah, that's what they're referring to. So here you can see, if you add 21,000, it's going to give you the 27,500. Okay. Then from that, we now we want to know how many units we need to produce. Okay. How many units we then need to produce. So we take this 27,000, and remember we have a contribution of 0.70 under the promotion. We calculated it up here. Can you see? over here. Okay, so we take that to find out, okay, under the promotion, how many units then must we produce in order to break even? So when we say 27,500 divided by 0.70, what do we get? 3928. 286. Okay. Right. Yes. Why are we dividing it by 5? Yes, it's 5 weeks. 5 weeks over the promotion, or 5 weeks of the promotion. All right, so that tells us we now need to sell that number of units every week. Okay. All right, and then we obviously have been given this information that our normal weekly sales volume is 3,000. Okay, so now to get the multiplier, we obviously then are saying what we need to sell on the promotion divided by what we would normally sell. Okay, and here I see they rounded it off to the nearest rand in your textbook. Okay, but yeah, we got a small 20-cent difference there. So ultimately, this should be your final answer. That's 2 rand 60. Everybody happy? Everybody happy with that one? Mm. That is exactly why I was saying that this module is harder, because of such details. And the truth of the matter is, if you have not seen this question, you won't know. You are just going to answer based off of what you assume they're asking, which is rough. Yeah. Because even if you do understand your content, you might not be doing the right thing. You see? And this is why I was saying that with this one, with this module, I really encourage that you do more exercises than we do in class together, and go and look at past papers as well. The good part is you'll actually see, just like 2A, a lot of the questions they ask in your assessments, they are very similar. They don't veer too much. You know, it's just changing of numbers, changing the scenario, but requiring the same. So that's the good part about it. But otherwise, yeah, it's ambiguous. Right. So that was 3.1. I want us to then go to 3.2. Okay. I want us to then go to 3.2. And what are they asking us there for 3.2? So under 3.2, under the required, it says calculate the aggregate break-even units and sales for Melon Ltd. Okay. Then up top there it says Melon Ltd manufactures and sells 3 products which have the following revenue and costs per unit. Okay, so they've given us the revenue and cost per unit. Okay. Then it goes on to say unit fixed costs are based on the following sales volumes. Following sales volumes. And then again, remember they are saying calculate the aggregate break even. Okay, right. So we know that when it comes to break even, as we mentioned earlier, how do we calculate this thing? Over selling price minus your variable costs. Okay, so that's That's what they are requesting of us. Okay, but it's going to be slightly different from what we've seen before. Okay, so you can see here I've already inserted your selling price per unit for A, B, and C. So let's quickly calculate the contributions, the respective contributions. A is obviously going to be what? 1.65, 100%. And then B, 0.8. And then finally C, 2.35. Okay, cool. All right. So then your next step, they've already given us the sales units for each of your respective products. Okay. So your next step will then be to calculate the total sales for each product, which again, I know you guys know how to multiply, so I've just done that. All right, so to get to the 448,000, you're literally just saying 1 Rand 65 times the 122,750. But you guys can quickly just check that to make sure. All right. Is it not? Oh, is it not? It's actually your selling price. Sorry, your selling price times the your selling price per unit times the sales mix for the unit. Yeah, to get the actual total sales. Sorry, I said the contribution. My bad. Sorry. It's actually your selling price. Okay, and which makes sense because which makes sense because we said total sales. We didn't say your contribution margin. So my bad. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've got that right. But now what we want is to get the average selling price per meal. How do we get the average selling price per meal? So if we take total sales of all three, yes, divided by the number of units from all three. That is exactly what we would do. So basically take 1 million divided by, I think that's a 315. Yeah, I'm just doing it here as well. So we can do it together, divided by your 315,000. Okay, so this is now your average selling price per meal. Everybody happy so far? Then the next step is you need to now get your equivalent contribution. Okay, now your equivalent contribution, how you're going to get it is you're going to say the contribution of the specific product, so 1 Rand 65 times, you now have to use the sales mix, which we know is how many units did we sell of A? It's 122,750 divided by the total number of units sold, 315,000. Okay, then you're obviously doing the same thing for the other units. So I know this is going to change. This will be 80.
No, there's a lot of theories. Like I saw the question. They give you a scenario to say what type of role is this. It's not. No.
So if you add all the results that we got there, do you get that 1 rand 89, 82? Sorry. 1.04.
Might be a decimal or something off.
Is that decimals that are off?
So you're using a finance calculator?
Yes, sir. Fancy. You guys are gonna live and breathe with these things. Funny enough, my finance lecturer used to say, "Let me pull out my Ferrari." I don't know what his logic was. Yeah, they used to call these calculators Ferrari. Yeah. So now we have the equivalent contribution. Okay, remember we're getting the break even for multiple products. Okay. So you can actually see the calculation here. We have our total fixed. Oh, no, we need to do this calculation together. We have they told us the fixed cost per unit, right? So we need to then say, okay, that 1 rand 20 for product A times how many units? You said 31,500. It's 122,000 units, 750. Yes, just on the individual one. Because we're getting the fixed cost for each. Exactly. Okay, so here the fixed cost for product B was 1 rand times here we had 52,500 units. And then finally here we had what? 1 rand 35 times 139 units, 750. Okay, so when you add those together, you should be getting the 388,000 in fixed costs total. Everybody understood how we got there? Remember in the table in the textbook, they gave you fixed cost per unit for each of the respective products. This is why we're doing it like this. Usually you would just get a fixed cost amount. Does that make sense? But they haven't given us. Okay. So now we have our total fixed costs, right? To get our break-even point, aggregate, right? Aggregate, meaning across all our products. We then obviously say our total fixed cost, because remember our formula is fixed cost divided by your selling price minus your variable cost. In other words, your contribution margin. Okay. So now we use our average contribution margin, which is the 1 rand 82, which we calculated there. All right. Here's the calculations, and then obviously you get 213,000 units 441. Then if we want to calculate our break even in sales, All right, we know our average selling price is 3.28 Rand, and then again we're saying it's the aggregate. Okay, so our average selling price times our break-even in units, we have a total of 700,087 Rand. And that is your exercise 3.2. I don't think there was anything else they asked. Yeah, it was just that. Okay. So again, it's not only just knowing the procedures, also the structures that you then now need to be able to formulate on the go when you're doing your test for exam. Yeah. Okay. Right. So I see we've only got 7 minutes to the break. So I think what we can do now is to quickly just go to question 3.6. Are you guys done copying this one? I can move on. Okay, for your homework on Friday, remember Wednesday we are revising the papers. Or is it Thursday? Thursday you see, I'm seeing it. So I just want you to do 3.4 and 3.8. And then we're done with this. No, for Friday. For Thursday. For Thursday. Keep saying Friday. Okay. For Wednesday, remember you guys are working on the past papers there. So that's fine. Okay, all right, let's go to 3.6. So that when we get back from the break, we just have 3.3 to do and then we call it. So 3.6 is just theory. So we can get through this quick. So on 3.6, they say the following. They say, under the required, discuss what you think some of the advantages and disadvantages of using cost volume profit analysis are for a business. Okay? And then up top it says cost volume profit analysis is a tool that can be used by business managers to make better business decisions. Okay, so there we have just copied the answers which should have at the back of your textbook. So number one, decision making. All right, assist managers in answering specific questions needed in business analysis, such as break even. And how many units must we sell in order to ensure we don't make a loss or a profit? All right. Worst case scenario, should we fail to sell what we want to? How many units must we sell in order to ensure we don't make a loss? So that helps quite a bit. And then margin of safety. How much wiggle room do we have before we either start making a loss or we reach our break-even point? Okay, so you can see, it really helps with decision making. But over and above that, even things like making it, if we decide to run a promotion like we saw in question 3.1, right? What are the impacts of that? So decisions, it extends beyond just the two illustrated there. The details provides a detailed snapshot of company activity. This helps managers determine what the future will hold if variables are altered. Like if we decide to use a different supplier, all right, for our materials, that means our variable costs will change. What does that mean for us, right? So in other words, if we know that we can use materials that are of a lesser quality, which means they'll be cheaper to us, but still deliver the quality product that we need or to provide for our services, then we can begin to assess that and see what our profits will typically look like, right? We could go on, but that's just one example. Then disadvantages, the limitations, okay? Much of the analysis is based on a single product. This is very, very true, okay? This makes applying cost, volume, profit analysis more difficult because it must be done for each specific product. Like now we were doing the whole aggregate, break even. That is making quite a lot of assumptions. Remember, there's one assumption that we make I don't know if we actually highlighted in 2A, but in 2B, under this very same topic, cost, volume, and profit analysis, one of the assumptions that we make is that the sales mix, or sales mix, in other words, product A, B, and C, we say that the units sold under each of those remains constant, right? Or the proportion of the sales mix remains constant. So if product A, we sell 10%, it is 10% of our total sales. It's always going to be 10% of our total sales. And then product B is always going to be 50%, which means product C will always be 40%, which is not very realistic. Okay, so that's one of the additional limitations. Or actually here, they say under approximations, despite being detailed, provides approximations rather than exact solutions. Okay, I think this is speaking more to what I was just mentioning. For this reason, managers must exercise extreme caution when making decisions about changes to business operations and finance. Judgments have to be made after careful investigation and deliberation, and not just based solely on statistics. Okay, so yeah, I think that highlights quite well. These approximations just give you ballpark figures to operate with, but they mustn't be taken like word from the Bible. Any thoughts, questions, concerns before we break? And I see we're right on time. Okay, so let's get back by 2 past, and then we'll do question 3.3, and then we'll call it a day.